Well, Lauren, the whole thing is that in this particular thing we're doing is the emancipation of ourselves from reality, going back to the years, 80 years in this area, where people like Roy Rogers, Gene Autry, Roy Barcroft, all the people that we've known, gave so much of themselves to a world that was so full of torment, so full of hate. Hitler's Germany, Mussolini, Stalin, all of these people. And who were the people that actually kept steadfastly sticking to their moral strength, to their courage? To the people like yourselves in the picture business. Well, to show you, for example, I did a show in which the animal trainer was a young man named Tarzan. He would go into the arena with 6 tigers and 6 lions. Difficult.
Yes, certainly.
Only with a loincloth and a little dagger.
Yeah.
Now, you know what he wanted to be? Cowboy. He said, I want to be cowboy. I had to give him my hat, the only thing I could give him.
Yeah.
But he was from the Basque Country in France.
Oh,
so
yeah.
What happened? You, Roy Rogers, all the people that we're talking about gave this to the world, not just locally. And these people were looking for morality, for
integrity,
purpose.
Right.
And you gave it to them. That's what it's all about.
Yeah. That was the bedrock of it. It was the old films, the integrity, and a lot of people don't realize the old West, the cowboys, the original cowboys, and then the cowboys in the movies, which many of them were real cowboys. What they said was short, succinct, to the point, and I love the expression that you could bank their word. Their honor and their word meant more than money, fame, or anything else, and integrity.
See, I was talking to a singer last night who does the streets of Laredo, and I've been researching this kind of thing for 35 years. The Streets of Laredo came out of a song called The Bard of Armagh in Ireland.
Oh.
And the Bard of Armagh defrocked himself of his religious robes, went out into the countryside and sang songs against the British penal system, which was punishable by death in those days.
Yeah.
But when the potato famine hit, they came over here. There were signs in Boston, New York, Philadelphia, no Irish need apply. So they fanned out west, became railroad men, gunfighters, gold miners, and cowboys.
Yeah.
But the term cowboy came from Ireland.
I didn't realize that.
Oh yes, the young village boys who tended the cattle while their parents were working.
Yeah.
These were cowboys. But can you imagine the difference between that and getting on a horse and going 2,500 miles across trackless country with Indians? Terrible, isn't it?
Yeah.
Now all of a sudden, they're not cowboys anymore. They're men.
They're men.
And the whole thing is, as you say, they were terse, short, and to the point.
Yeah.
They said, I'll meet you at 10 o'clock. Where were they at 10 o'clock?
They were there.
Exactly.
Yeah. You could bank their word. And you know, in those days, the cowboys became men at 14, 15, and 16. They accepted responsibility. They stood for what was right, and they didn't ask for a handout. They didn't want anybody to give them this. If they had a problem, they said, well, I'll straddle my own bronc. It's my problem, not yours. I don't need any help. I'll handle this. And they were independent. They did it on their own.
You know, the word you said, responsibility, struck such a chord with me, because as you know, I worked with John Wayne and did the album he did.
Yes.
But at his house, he got the mail one day, and he was reading this letter, and suddenly he hit his fist with his hand and shook the patio, and he said, I can't abide a liar.
Yep.
I wondered who he was talking about, but he said, the trouble is, John, people today shirk responsibility. So that word to him was, that was it.
Oh, I loved his movies, especially in the Alamo. It just gets red, white, and blue pulsating through your veins. And I loved it when they were talking about the country, and I guess he was talking to Travis, and he says, I love the sound, the word republic. Republic. I love the sound of the word. It stands for responsibility and this and this and this. And we are a republic, not a democracy.
That's right.
And Wayne had that in his films. And all the Westerns carried that old spirit of America and independence and responsibility that you don't see in movies today. People don't have it.
This terrain that we're in right now in the Alabama hills, out with me, the whole thing, millions of years of development. And so many people pass it by as though it's nothing.
Nothing, yeah, right.
It's everything, because it's been there long before we were.
Oh, yes.
And will be there a long time after. So I think we should still open up our eyes to the responsibility we have to not only ourselves, but to the world around us.
Exactly. And we do it by example in how we live, and our films can make such an effect on people all over the world.
And some of the modern ones, unfortunately, I'm not
they're
too
trash.
pleased.
I'm sorry, I have to say they're trash.
Well, it's like with our dear friend Richard Farnsworth.
Farnsworth, yeah.
The Straight Story was one of the most beautiful things I've seen in a long time.
Oh.
And he did a beautiful job.
He did. And a lot of people don't realize he was in tremendous pain from terminal cancer during the making of the whole film.
Oh, Lord.
And you don't see it in his acting.
No.
The crew nobody knew. He kept it to himself and he fought it on his own. Excruciating pain. And there was no drugs that could kill this kind of pain because the cancer had metastasized and gone through his entire body, his brain, everything. But you'd never know it, and he never told anybody.
See, the one thing that I love about a particular plaque I have at home, it says, "Don't quit." No quit in that man.
Nope. No quit in him.
No
He
quit.
fought the good fight for a long, long time and never complained to anybody. Nobody knew. It was just, he was incredible.
Well, what do you feel the difference is between the modern stuntman system and the way you grew up in it?
Well, it was strange. When I grew up in the business, when I got in, and I got in by accident, I didn't know what a stuntman was, and once I got in, I wanted to know about the stuntman and his history. And I asked about the old-timers and who they were and what they'd accomplished, and I found out the histories of the people who were my peers at that time. And I was just shocked and just, I mean, I was
In awe.
in awe, I guess that's the best word, of what they'd accomplished and how they'd done it and what their backgrounds were. And they're not idiots for hire. They're not macho type guys. They were athletes. They used their brains. They thought, they planned. They were looking out for each other. They didn't kill each or hurt each other or hurt someone else or someone else on the set. And they had all these things going, and my God, their word was, they said they're going to be there, or if they said, yeah, I can do this with a motorcycle and I can put it there or the car there, they did it, and you could lay your life on it. You had to. But you could trust them, and the word meant something.
Did you know Kerry Lofton?
Knew Kerry, the best car man in the history of the business. Oh,
He
wonderful
did the
Kerry.
thing for Brother Robert in Thunder Road.
Thunder Road, yes.
And
Well, I heard what Bob did in that. He was supposed to bring this car around in a chase and roll it 3 or 4 times, and he said, I want it over here. Kerry said, no problem. He says, no, I'm going to tell you where I want your side of the window. And he went down and he made a mark. When this car, I want it to end up on its side, but I want 3 or 4 rolls first, and I want the center of that window, the driver's side, right in the center of this mark. And he made a chalk mark on the thing, and Kerry went down and did it.
And I remember,
Yeah.
and Bob said that when they showed the rushes for the first time, he said to the projectionist, please bring that back, I want to see this. He said, what are you looking for? Well, Kerry was smoking a cigarette. I don't know if you know this.
No, I didn't hear
But
that.
here he is coming down the mountainside at a pretty good lick,
Yeah,
and he hit the ditch that he personally had dug,
right.
and as the car started over, Kerry went,
And flipped.
it's such cool that you can't believe
That's
it.
Kerry.
And Bob ran over and said, you all right? He said, was that okay? He
Yeah.
just did exactly the way he wanted it.
Oh, exactly. Well, he had that mark, and Kerry put it there.
Yeah, so these are the people that I'm talking about.
Yeah, yeah.
Yourself epitomize the whole
Yeah.
thing.
You know, today they have all these stunt schools all over the country. I got to say, in my opinion, 100% of them are rip-offs. They're run by stuntmen who couldn't make it as a stuntman, so now they're going to teach you how to do something they failed at. You know? And it just...
Well, I don't know if you knew this, but I fought a lot. I boxed a lot in my
Yeah,
day.
I know you're.
And the thing that always tickles me is the people who pick all these fights can't fight.
No.
I can never understand why they'd want to do it.
Well, I've always learned that you're always leery of the quiet one that doesn't say anything. The guy that brags and I'm tough and I can do this and I can whatever, they're pussycats. You can do anything with them. But the guys that are quiet and just stand there and are very polite, watch out.
Well, I have an English friend who weighs about 2 1/4, and is very quiet, very soft-spoken, but inwardly he's tough, he's rugged.
Yeah.
Well, we went into a place where they played pool, and one of the men playing pool looked up at me and he made some nasty remark about what he was going to do. And I can't say this on the air, but at any rate, Richard went over and said, well, that sounds like a jolly good idea. The guy just quit right there.
Right there, yeah. Yeah.
So what I think, Loren, what we're going to have to do is to send out these waves like Ruth just did, you were doing, these waves of working with an eternal God, with an eternal spirit of reality that is beautiful.
Yes.
And this is the only way it's going to change this whole thing around.
That's right.
Because
well, I feel it's important, and I'm very fortunate. I've been in the business 47 years, started in 1954, and I've never been injured or broken a bone doing a stunt.
my Lord.
And I've never injured another stuntman or an actor, an actress, or anybody on the crew. I'm really safety conscious. I've looked after that. People say, oh, then you've got to be the greatest. No, there's 30 or 40 stuntmen that are so great you can't say one's number one or one's number two. But I think one of the reasons that I survived without any broken bones or injuries is because I always kept myself in good physical shape, mental shape, and the most important, spiritual shape.
Sure.
And when you have the three of those, of course you can't even mention spirituality or God in this country today. You're an outcast or something's wrong. But those are the things that have held this country together and made it the greatest country in the world. And the whole country's getting away from this and getting away from integrity and honesty. And it's everything nowadays, if it feels good, do it.
Well, you know, my brother said something which I think is a good thing to close on. He said, I wish people would realize that if America fails, the world fails.
Absolutely. Well, you know, in Cuba, they can run here. Other countries, the West, went from the East to the West. And everybody, if they want to get away, they run to this country. Where are we going to run to?
No,
The rest of the world is a big slave state.
we don't want it.
No.
And the word freedom, that to me, personal, individual freedom.
Freedom.
That's the thing that I constantly say to myself, well, thank God.
And you know, the big word you said before, which is so important, you can have freedom without personal responsibility.
No,
That's the key.
No possibility.
No.
So I'm telling you, I want to thank you.
Oh, I love
Because
it.
frankly, what you're saying goes right down to what I feel very strongly.
Yeah.
Very strongly.
And your poem that you wrote for John Wayne is about America is just, I get teary-eyed every time I hear it. Everybody does. But not enough people see it or hear it.
Well,
It was fantastic.
see, that's one of the things that I come down here for.
That's right.
See, that's one of the reasons, possibly the main reason.
Yeah. Legend
Yeah.
in your own time, and you're still there, and that's keep it going.
And I don't understand it, but I'm very grateful for it. So, I want to thank you.
Oh, I love it.
One of the best.
Yeah.
Okay, can you say your name for me?
Loren Janes.
Is it J-A-N?
Janes.
Okay.
Right.